Zach here. In this video I'm going to be reviewing Nebuchadnezzar. So what is Nebuchadnezzar? It's a single player city builder which focuses on population, managing workers and trade, and we'll take a closer look at this later in the video. It is an indie game and it was only developed by 2 people, and it's currently available on Steam for $20. Let's have a look at the options. You can rebind your keys, which I know is a big deal for some people. There are very few graphical options for this game, although the game does run fine and I've only had one crash since I started playing it. So what do the graphics look like? Well, personally I think they're okay. I think it does look slightly bland, but what they do get right is the resources do look distinct, so you're not going to get your resources mixed up, which is very important in this game. However, the graphics aren't the main feature of this game. More importantly, it's the gameplay mechanics. The game has a single player campaign mode with over a dozen missions. The first few missions are tutorials. They're done very well and they set you up with the basic game mechanics. There are over a dozen missions in total. So if we select one of the missions, what you'll see is you can see there's a list of objectives at the top, and those are the objectives you need to complete in order to finish the mission and unlock the next mission if you haven't already done so. There are a couple of difficulty modes to choose from, and also when you start you can either choose the historical start or go for an empty map. Personally, I like to choose empty maps so I can build my civilization from scratch, but it's entirely up to the individual. Right, this was one of the missions I completed in the game at the end, and one of the things that is quite good in the game and I think works well is the way that population works. So when initially you build a house, 30 people will immediately join. And what you have is you have different levels of house. So if you want to get it to the next level, like a level 2, so it starts off as a shack. If you want to get to a poor house, you need to provide bread and milk. And if you do that, it goes to level 2. Once it goes to level 2, more people will join. And this keeps on happening as you go from level 4 to 5, etc. So you do need to upgrade your houses. Now those houses there are for your working class, so those are your farmers and things like that. Now you also need houses for your middle class, and these are villas, and they don't house anyone initially, but if you can provide dates and fish, then they'll house up to 12 people. And then to get to level 3, so they'll house more, you'll need priests and copper jewellery. And the reason your middle class are important is because they do different jobs to the working class. They work in breweries and copper jewellery factories, and there's lots of other things as well. It is important to have a good balance of middle class workers and working class workers. What you'll see in the top right is your population, and you can also see how many are unemployed and your unemployment rate. You'll see I've got a lot of working class unemployed. It's because I built a bit too many houses in this game. But yeah, it's very important that you have enough workers for the jobs that you want them to do. Now let's have a look at the upper class. So the upper class, they live in residence. And as you can see, there's different levels here again. There's 3 levels on this map, but you will get more levels on later maps, although this is one of the later maps, but there are a couple of missions after this. And like with the lower class and middle class residents, you need to provide certain resources to the houses in order to accommodate more people. Now, one of the very important reasons for having high level buildings is there's something called prestige, and one of your objectives is to get a certain level of prestige on each map, and this is done by having a big population. But it's no good just building loads of houses and loads of low level residences and villas. The reason is prestige is also affected by building quality. So you also need to improve the quality of the residence in order to get a high prestige level. So let's take a look at the prestige menu. What you'll see is there's 3 things which affect prestige. You've got your population, you've got trade, and you've also got the monuments. Now you can see here the prestige you get for different residents, and you can see I'm getting more prestige for my upper class and middle class than my lower class, even though I've got less residents in total. And you'll see it also has a column for the housing quality, because that is very important. The second thing that affects the prestige level is the trade, and that's your trading income from your exports. The higher the income from your exports, the more prestige you will get. That's not necessarily the money you're making, because you will be also importing things as well as exporting. You also get prestige from building monuments. So if we have a look at the monument, now to be honest I thought the monument was a bit disappointing, because you build it but it doesn't actually do anything other than provide prestige. There's also the option to design your own monument if you want to do that. It didn't really interest me, so I didn't do it, but if that's your sort of thing, then that is available. Now let's have a look at trade. Of course, trade is very, very important in any city builder. In this game, you can only export resources which other cities want, and there's certain things you can import from them as well. And you will need to import some resources, as you won't be able to get them on your map. An example of that is copper bars, which you need to make copper jewellery. And you need copper jewellery in order to upgrade your villas, so you will need to import certain things. One of the important features of this game is being able to balance your imports with your exports. You will need to import things, but you will also need to export enough to balance the cost of your imports, as you can lose a lot of money if you get this wrong. Now, in order to do trade with different cities, at this point they're all unlocked on this map because this is at the end of one of my games. But initially, what they'll have is each city will have a requirement which you need to fulfill in order to trade with them. For some cities you'll need a certain level of prestige, for other cities you'll need to give them a certain amount of resource. You also have a certain relation rating with each city, and the higher that relation is, the more benefits you'll get. And you can see some of the benefits are listed below. Overall, I think the trading system does work very well. It does get a lot more challenging later in the game, where you need to export more and more. Now, for some of the worst points of the game, there have been some reviewers on Steam, a few reviewers who've been complaining about the map size, and you can see this is one of the earlier missions, and you can see the map is very, very small. If you play city builders to build big, huge cities, then this is probably not the game for you. This game is much more about how you manage the space available and can you use it effectively to meet the objectives of the game. Now, as you can see, the green land is a fertile land and there is very little of it. And one of the main points of this game is you can build water canals to channel water from the river, and you use these canals to increase the amount of fertile land available, so you can build farms and grow crops. Now, there is a limit to how far water can go. As you can see, it's dried up there, but in order to make the water go further, you can group these water pumps together from the river, and now you can see it can go a lot further. One of my main criticisms of the game is that the objectives are almost the same on each level. The only difference is each time you go into a new mission is that the objectives get a little bit harder. So for example, you need a bigger population, you'll need more prestige, you'll need to build more houses of a higher level. It's just stuff like that, but really they're just the same. Each mission is almost the same. What I would have liked to see is some more objectives covering other things, like a bit more on trade. You could have had some good trading objectives, like attaining a certain income of trade or a certain income from certain products. I think it would have just added a bit more variety into the game. Another thing is that there's not very much freedom in how you can build your city. You're always going to need the same things, the same resources. There's not much differences you can make if you were to play the game, the same mission again. It's going to be pretty much the same as the first time. If you play games like Tropico 6, you'll notice there's much more variety. There's much more different ways which you can make money, and you can play levels in a variety of different ways. With this game, there's not that much freedom in order to do that. So if you are looking for a game where there is a lot of freedom to play in completely different ways, then again, this is probably not the type of game you're looking for. At the end of the day, though, it is a $20 game. You're not going to get the depth that you might get with some of the more expensive titles. There also isn't a sandbox mode. There's just the campaign missions. Overall, though, in my opinion, I do think it's a good game. I did have a lot of fun playing it. You do have to be very strategic in the way you build your cities in order to maximise the space you have available. But as I said, the game's not perfect. I think lack of variety is its main problem. So with that being said, I'm going to give Nebuchadnezzar a review score of 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching.